Welcome to Our Girl Relationships. We talk about the problems people face in their day to day lives. Let's start with the video.
I, 28 female, have been married to my husband, 29, for around 2 years after a year of dating. I work in finance and my husband is a bartender. Things were fairly normal in the first 2 months of our marriage, but then I began to see some concerning signs. My husband was spending more time on his phone than ever before, going out with his buddies from work a lot more than what he used to, and he seemed to be working late a lot. I didn't want to admit it at first, but after a while, it became impossible to ignore all the red flags. I talked about it with my friends as well, and everyone agreed that things are a bit fishy. I was terrified of the possibility of it being real, but it began to seem pretty clear that he was cheating on me. This aligned with some other things I had noticed as well, like him pretty drastically changing how he dressed. The whole time that I've known him, he has been the most laid back person ever when it comes to clothing, pretty much putting on whatever fits. But I began to see gradual changes in his style. He began to dress much better than I had ever seen him. I know this may not seem like a big deal, but a man who has worn flannels and t shirts his whole life suddenly caring about fashion struck me as weird, to say the least. I also began to notice that he grew physically distant from me as well, always coming up with excuses and just being uninterested in general. After around 3 months of being absolutely tortured, I finally confronted him. I asked him if he was seeing another woman, and from his deer in the headlights expression, I knew that my suspicions were right. He told me that he met someone at work and that he's tired of our relationship. He also told me that he wants a more exciting and luxurious lifestyle, and my 9 to 5 jobs can't provide us with that. Within 3 days, he had packed his bags and left to stay with her. To say I was hurt would be an understatement. But if I knew back then that this mystery woman was none other than my own sister, things would have been much different. Now, let's give some context. My sister, 23, is a social media influencer. She has been at this career for the last year or so and has a decent following, I suppose. But guess what? Even though the influencer life looks great online, it doesn't really pay that well unless you have a huge following. It's not like she doesn't earn anything at all. She does. But it's hardly enough to pay for all the expensive, frivolous things she buys and does, like used designer bags and clothing, makeup, and the likes. She says these are investments, and once she makes it big, she'll be loaded. But for now, she would barely get by without my help. My husband has obviously always known that I have a younger sister, but I guess they started getting a bit too close 6 months ago when she moved to the same city as me. My husband sees her fancy influencer life online, but what he doesn't know is that I pay for almost all of it, starting from a significant part of her rent to the fancy products and treatments she flaunts on social media. I don't exactly know when my sister and husband started their affair, but I guess he saw the glamorous life she pretends to have and decided that it's better than what he had with me. I wouldn't even find out about them if it was not for a friend who spotted them at a restaurant. Imagine my shock when I found out my husband's mysterious new girl with a luxurious life was my own sister. So I'm the idiot paying for my husband and his mistress and their dream life? Give me a break. So I did what any sane person would do in my situation. I showed up at my sister's apartment, an apartment that I am practically paying for in its entirety. My husband was lucky enough not to be there when I showed up, but my sister was there. She was surprised to see me, but before she could say anything, I beelined to her bedroom. Sure enough, I found my husband's bags and clothes. She came running after me, and I asked if she wanted to explain herself. She said that he's happier with her and that they are in love with each other. She proceeded to say that we were never right for each other in the first place. I was honestly speechless. This woman was basically living on my charity, and she stole my husband and had the audacity to try and manipulate me about my own marriage. I told her that I hope that they're very happy together and that since they're so in love, he wouldn't mind paying for her apartment and all the million other things she needs for her so-called career, because I was not paying a cent to her ever again. At that point, she was also worked up and told me I can keep my money and that he doesn't care if she's rich or not. I scoffed and said I hope she's right because that's really not what he had said to me. My sister then proceeded to call me a jealous liar and told me to get out of her apartment. Bold of her, saying it's her apartment considering she can't even pay for it. But I was too furious to care and just left. I knew that her little bubble will burst very soon, and revenge is best served cold anyways. So that happened a month ago. They've been living together and I have filed for divorce. But guess who showed up at my door this morning? That's right, my soon-to-be ex-husband. I opened the door and almost shut it on his face, but he practically begged me to hear him out. I knew exactly where this conversation was going, though. After all, I hadn't paid a cent to my sister for a month. My husband told me that my sister is driving him insane. She couldn't make rent, and the landlord was furious. He told me that she finally confessed that I was the one paying for her seemingly luxurious life, and that he had made a huge mistake. He then proceeded to say she's the one who seduced him in the first place, and that he never wanted to leave me. This was the same man who had told me I'm not exciting enough for him. I laughed at his face and told him to get out of my apartment before I called the police. After some more drama, he finally left. For now, I'm enjoying the sweet taste of payback. I can't wait to see what happens to my sister, though. I'm sure my husband will go back crawling to her again. A lot of people are asking me to drop my sister's social media handles. I know she's an absolutely terrible person, but I don't want to do that. Rest assured that she's paying for her actions. I haven't spoken to her, but I've called her landlord, and he has given her 2 weeks to get her stuff and move out. He didn't know that I was the one who paid for the apartment, and I took the liberty to tell him, so my sister has no way of convincing him to let her stay. My husband keeps trying to reach out to me through texts and calls, but I have just blocked his number at this point. I have told him to reach out to my lawyer if he needs to ask anything about the divorce, because that's the only thing left to discuss between the two of us. You can imagine his reaction to that. From a loving wife and comfortable home, he now has basically nothing. I don't know if he and my sister are still together, but knowing my sister, I doubt it will last. I'm sure the moment my sister finds the next exciting man, it will take her no time to dump him. I even think sometimes that the only reason she did this is because she resented me for having settled and stable life. Unlike her, who was jumping from one relationship to the other with no stable source of income. Whatever it is, I don't care anymore. My sister is begging me to forgive her. I guess not living in her beautiful apartment is harder than she thought it would be. As for my husband, she has kicked him out. At least that's what she says. I don't know where he is now. The last time I saw or heard from him was when he showed up at my door begging for forgiveness. They've conveniently decided to put the blame on each other. My sister's saying he's the one who initiated everything and it all happened so fast she couldn't think it through. She says losing her apartment and all her fancy things will ruin her career. and begged me to help her out. I honestly feel no pity for her. She made the call to backstab me with my own husband, and simply put, I just don't care who started things. They're both equally to blame. I told the same to my sister, who freaked out and said that I'll be the one to blame if she loses everything she has. I'm still as angry as I was, but I'm confused. AITA for abandoning my sister? It has been 2 months since I last spoke to my sister. I randomly checked her social media out of curiosity and found out that she has moved back to our hometown. I called up my mother, and she told me that my sister moved in with them a while ago and begged them not to tell me. What a fantastic fall from grace. It's a small Midwestern town, so let's just say it won't be easy for her to live the picture perfect, high end influencer life from back home. As for my husband, we're still in the process of getting divorced. He's making it difficult for no reason, but I have all the patience in the world. In other news, I have met someone. It's still nothing, and we've only been on 2 dates, but I have a good feeling about this. Wish me luck. It doesn't even need to be said, but NTAOP, I don't know what bubbles your sister and husband had been living in their whole life. In fact, I think you were being way too generous by paying for your sister's frivolities in the first place. I know I wouldn't. Your gold-digging, pathetic husband got what he deserved, and so did your sister. They truly make the perfect pair. Ha ha. You're way better off. NTAOP, your sister and husband are disgusting. I think it's hilarious how your sister thought your husband actually loved her when he was actually after her money, which was, of course, your money in the first place. You did the absolutely correct thing by abandoning them both. That's exactly what they deserve anyway. I, 30, male, am married to my wife, Ellie, 29, female, and we are expecting our first child later this month. BG. Ellie and her brother Leo and late brother Josh were raised by my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law was a former foster child who never found a forever family in the system and was never able to track down any biological family, though she does believe she'd have half-siblings somewhere. When Ellie and her brother's dad then decided to quit his job and leave her on her own to raise the kids, she struggled. Then she lost Josh, the oldest, when he was 15 years old. It tore them apart and was yet another big hit for my mother-in-law, who did everything she could for her kids. Ellie has talked about how her mom suffered terribly with her mental health under the strain of everything, and how she's grateful that she was able to recover enough to be present in their lives today. Today, mother-in-law is starting to financially be in a better, more stable place, but she's far from rich. She's also not dropping everything to help her kids all the time. Ellie and Leo have told me before that their mom had to give away so much of herself when they were growing up, had to spread herself so thin that they don't think she could do it anymore, because she had no support and only had her kids who she didn't want to burden. So even though we live close to mother-in-law and Leo, she's not offering to be our childcare. Not that we expect her to, but I will get to why I say that. And she didn't pay for our wedding or throw us a big, massive baby shower. She's a wonderful person, and Ellie will always say she is the best mom and would never, ever want to lose her. My parents were visiting this weekend, and we had an argument. Back when we were engaged, they had commented that our wedding was not as big as they would have expected, and that my mother-in-law had not paid for anything. I told them it was our wedding, not mother-in-law's, so she had no reason to pay for it. I told them not to bring it up again. They knew the history then, but it was bothering them that we chose to live close to her when she gives nothing and does nothing a mother and expectant grandmother should do. They then started talking about how it must kill my wife that her own mother doesn't care, is a crappy mother, and how they know she likely hoped mother-in-law would offer to watch our child while we both work. and throw her a big baby shower and offer to be on hand to help with every little thing. I told them they had no right to speak about what my wife wanted and how dare they judge mother-in-law so harshly when they know what she has been through. I told them I did not want them upsetting my family, wife, brother-in-law, and mother-in-law, with those opinions, and I made them leave. They told me I was punishing them for having sympathy for my wife and for wanting better for her than her own mother does. They said I should have let my wife decide if they spoke out of turn. But she was upset. She simply knows I'm happy to step in and deal. But was my reaction too harsh? AITA? NTA, clearly. But there's a major issue here. Your parents are being ridiculous. And I'd make it very clear to them that it will never be tolerated because they'll keep pushing it. It's absolutely none of their business what your mother-in-law does. And it isn't any grandparent's job to offer childcare. And it's not any parent's job to pay for a wedding. These things are nice, sure, but not everyone is in that position, and no one has the right to demand these things from their relatives, and especially not the parents of the couple. What the hell is that about? I also want to thank you for standing up for your wife. I can't tell you how many stories I hear of the husband's parents treating people rudely, and he cowers instead of confronting them and sticking up for his wife and her family. You did a good thing here, but I expect it's not over yet. You will need to set a hard boundary in the near future. Your parents are absolutely not looking out for your wife by saying her mom doesn't care, knowing what she went through, and knowing your wife loves her. My friend, female 20, feels unattractive. She asked me, female 21, to help her glow up. And we talked about pretty privilege. It's not all sunshine and rainbows. As a former loner, I never received attention, and everything changed when my appearance became mainstream in college. My nerdy hobbies became quirky instead of being made fun of. I told her about my ED and my relapses. She wanted to go through with it. We made a Pinterest board. I tried to follow a makeup tutorial to achieve a new look for her. The results were good, and I let her borrow my clothes and took Instagram pictures since she wanted to share her new look. I was happy that she was happy. I used my products for the past months. I made a beauty box for her birthday using drugstore and high-end products. The total was $120 plus, but she meant more than that to me. After that, whenever I go to her room, the box is left untouched. It takes me 45 to 60 minutes to do her makeup. I'd work on hers first before mine when going out. Also, upgraded her wardrobe within budget. Her personality became twisted. It led to an argument after bringing it up. She can't expect me to do her makeup whenever she wants to party. I need to work on my academics. I can't spend SM time doing her makeup for 7 days. She thinks I'm jealous of her newfound attention and said, "Unlike you, I'm not an anorexic bitch." Hearing the last sentence hurt me. I said she shouldn't be a spoiled, entitled brat, expecting to be spoon-fed since I gave her all the resources. She stormed out of my room in tears. Our mutual friends ripped me apart. She reposted a TikTok about friends sabotaging each other when one's doing well and tagged me on her public story. I didn't engage with her and blocked her. We haven't talked in 2 weeks, and she came knocking on my door, begging me to do her makeup for Halloween since she's partying with her friends. This was the first time she apologized to me, and I just told her no. She made a scene outside my dorm. As an RA, I couldn't have someone crying in public and disturbing my residents. I let her in and gave her some tissues and water to calm down. She kept saying sorry, and I just asked her why she's here. She said that she can't do her makeup perfectly like how I helped her. I told her that she's on her own and she needs to leave. She's on her knees and begging me to help her since she doesn't have much time to get ready. I told her to stop and that I'm sick, so I want to lay in bed for the night. She wouldn't stop screaming, so I told her to stop unless she'd like me to call university police. She said I was abusing my power and that she would report me. I encouraged her to go for it, since anyone can call UP or talk with the resident directors. At this point, I just wanted peace and quiet since I had a raging headache and coughing like there's no tomorrow. I warned her one last time before she finally gave up and left. WIBTA, thank you all so much for the support and advice. I definitely see things clearer now. I've brought this up to my supervisor to keep her in the loop, and I've documented this whole situation. I also told our mutual friends, and they showed me screenshots of their conversations. She disrespected me even more, lol. But I'm not even surprised at this point. And yes, I know that it's now on TikTok as well. Thank you all for letting me know. I guess there's nothing I can do about the publicity of it all. I don't know if it's too much to make a burner account to tell the creator to remove it, but I did consider it. On the bright side, nearly all of our friends ended up taking my side, while only 2 didn't. I decided it's best to cut those 2 off along with her. Hopefully, I won't be hearing from them any longer. Also, my lab results are negative. I think it might have been frat flu or something, but I did get my boosters a couple of weeks ago. I guess my immune system is just not up to par, especially with the changing weather. I appreciate everyone's concern. Losing a friend honestly hurts more than losing a romantic partner. It's a different type of pain, but I'll get over it eventually. NTA, pretty toxic. Keep your distance from her.